The Archer class. The class for people who want to enter a room, fire blindly from the doorway, and then wonder why everything is already dead. If you want to reach that level of damage while progressing as smooth as possible, then this is the guide for you. Full disclosure though, Archer progression can be a bit weird. It's decent in the beginning and fun killing mobs from a distance, but then somewhere in the mid game, there is a jump in gear. But don't worry, I will try to make it easier for you. And if you find this video helpful at all, would appreciate it if you like the video, and if you want to see more content, subscribe. There is a Berserker guide coming very soon. Anyways, let's begin by talking how to build an Archer setup. The most important stats for Archer are strength, crit damage, and crit chance. You don't really build Archer to be tanky. Instead, you focus on doing as much damage as possible since you will be shooting from a distance anyway. You will get the tankiness from leveling up your catacomb level and progressing outside of dungeons. Also, a huge tip I want to give to every dungeon player who never entered a floor before and wants to drop that mob armor at catacomb 0, simply select mage, enter entrance, and use the mage ult to instantly kill all the mobs. This is very helpful if you're struggling in the beginning to kill. Moving on, the armor. I will keep it very simple. I will mention all different armor setups that you can use and which floor you can use it in. When you're just starting out with dungeons, you can use any regular non-dungeonized armor set. However, if you want something specific, you can use strong, unstable, or superior dragon armor. This armor won't be good enough for you since it's not dungeonized. So what you can do is switch to 3-4 Titanic Rotten armor with Titanic Heavy Chestplate, which requires Catacombs level 2. This is a good setup if you only want to focus on survivability. You won't get any damage from it. Therefore, you can replace the heavy chestplate with a skeleton grunt chestplate for extra damage. There are a lot of alternatives. You can just use a full skeleton grunt armor for damage build. And then there is a jump in the progression. The next armor is Skeleton Master armor, which has a Catacomb 12 requirement. What makes this armor helpful for Archer is the full set bonus, which increases your arrow damage by 25%, which does not include the additional 5% from each piece. On top of that, the chestplate has a stats that will make you not consume arrows when you use it. This setup should get you up to floor 3 or 4. A problem you might run into with this armor is staying alive, since it doesn't give a lot of effective HP. If that's the case, and you haven't unlocked the Skeleton Master yet, you can use full Zombie Soldier armor. It only requires Catacombs level 9, and while it does not do as much damage, it gives you way better survivability, which can be really helpful in the early floors. Additionally, there's another setup you might want to look into is the full adaptive armor. It's another alternative to the Skeleton Master armor. You'll get better effective HP but less damage overall. The main perks is that it only needs a floor 3 completion, so you don't need a Catacombs level requirement. This can be helpful if you speedrun to floor 3 on a low Catacombs level and want a solid setup for survivability. The next armor is 3-4 Shadow Assassin armor with Zombie Knight chestplate, Perfect chestplate, or Skeleton Master chestplate. The Shadow Assassin armor requires floor 5 completion to use, and for the chestplate, it comes down to preference in terms of damage, price, and effective HP. The Perfect chestplate is the tanky one, while a Zombie Knight and Skeleton Master are for damage. Skeleton Master is better for the damage because of the bonus arrow stats, but Zombie Knight has a balance between survivability and damage. Skeleton Master chestplate is currently more expensive, so if you are on a budget, you can use a Zombie Knight chestplate. If money is not really a problem, the next setup to go for is full Shadow Assassin armor. It gives pretty solid damage and decent effective HP. It's a big upgrade from the early game gear and can carry you through floor 5 and even the start of floor 6. You can also upgrade the Shadow Assassin pieces with livid fragments for better stats, making it even stronger. For the helmet, you can replace it with the floor specific golden head or diamond head for even better stats, but keep in mind you will need to unlock these by beating the floor 100 times. You can't just buy it from the auction anymore. The next setup is full Necron armor, which requires floor 7 completion. Necron gives a ton of strength and crit damage, while still giving you solid amount of effective HP. But like I said previously, the golden head and the diamond heads are better, but you will need to finish 100 floor 7 runs first to unlock them. You also have the option to replace the boots with the Maxer boots. Personally, I would go for this because the Maxer boots give you decent amount of speed, and it's only 4% less damage compared to the Necron's boots. This armor is the last armor you will get, so you should definitely invest in it. It is expensive though. Another setup I want to mention is the Frozen Blaze armor. It needs Catacomb 20 to use, and with a legendary Blaze pet, it is very close to the damage, compared to the Necron in dungeons. Frozen Blaze actually gives better effective HP than the Necron by default, though Necron will take the lead if you pair it with a Baby Yeti. For damage, Necron with an Ender Dragon pet is very close to the Frozen Blaze armor, but Necron pulls far ahead if you have a Golden Dragon pet. One nice thing about the Frozen Blaze is that it's a lot cheaper than the Necron, since you will only need one pet, which is the Blaze pet. In my opinion though, if you already have the Blaze pet and meet the Catacomb requirement, it is a fun alternative, but if you plan to do dungeons for a long time, even reaching Master Mode 7, I would recommend you just invest in Necron. Either way, I will link a detailed comparison video in the description if you want to get into details. And that covers all the main armor setups. If you want a quick summary for all the armor, here's what you do. You start off dungeons by using any of the dungeon armor, but specifically, I would recommend using the Rotten armor with heavy chestplate. Then you rush to floor 3 for the adaptive armor, which would be a solid setup until you complete floor 5. Once you get to floor 5, you unlock the full Shadow Assassin armor. Then in floor 7, you upgrade to the 3-4 Necron with Maxer boots, or if you want, you can get the Maxer leggings if you struggle with speed. The damage difference might not be that big. Then if you get 100 runs, you unlock the Golden Head, and then if you finish 1000 runs, you unlock the Diamond Head. One more alternative is swapping Necron's chestplate for Skeleton Master chestplate. The reason for this is because Skeleton Master chestplate has a perk that makes your bow not consume arrows. So for players who do a lot of dungeons and don't like the downtime of buying arrows, they usually go for this. Comparing this to the Necron's chestplate, it's worse damage and effective HP, but not by a lot. This is assuming you use the one dropped from M7 with the maximum stats. I wouldn't recommend doing this at lower catacomb levels. Okay, let's talk about Archer's armor reforges and enchants. For armor reforge, you put Ancient. If you cannot afford it, you can put Fierce. For the ultimate enchant, you can use Legion for extra stats. If survivability is an issue, you could use Last Stand, but I don't really recommend it. Legion is so much better. Keep in mind you don't need to max the enchant. Legion 3 is still enough. Other cool enchants I want to mention are Strong Mana and Ferocious Mana. What you could do is put Ferocious Mana on the boots and then Strong Mana on the rest. Next up are pets. There are a lot of damage boosting pets that could be used, but for this video, I won't mention them all, as some of them, in my opinion, are just not worth it because of the cost. Although if you're just starting off dungeons, you can use any of the damage boosting pets that you already have. All of them can be good enough in the beginning. The first pet is Tiger. This pet gives you strength, crit chance, crit damage and ferocity as base stats, and increases your ferocity by 30%. In addition, melee attacks reduce healing by 55% for 10 seconds. And if you have a legendary one, you deal 100% more damage against targets with no mobs within 15 blocks. What makes this pet so good is the ferocity it gives, which actually works with a bow. It will provide you with a lot of DPS, and on top of that, you will not need the legendary pet for it to be good. The legendary would be nice though. Overall, you can use this pet up to floor 6. But if you want archer specific pet, you can use Skeleton. This pet gives you crit damage and crit chance as base stats, and increases your arrow damage by 75%, which is doubled while in dungeons. You also gain a combo stack for every bow hit, giving you 3 strength per stack, maxing at 20 stacks. From just reading those stats, you can tell that this pet is made for archer. It significantly boosts your damage, specifically arrow damage. This is the pet you will be using until you reach floor 6. Comparing this pet with Tiger, they are both really good. Tiger gives good damage per second, but Skeleton is better single hit damage. Although, Tiger relies on ferocity, so if you have high ferocity, use Tiger. Plus, the Tiger's third perk allows you to do even more damage to mobs if there are no other mobs around them. Overall, see what works best for you. Tiger might be better against bosses, and Skeleton better for clearing if you can one-tap the mobs. Also, remember to compare the prices of both. The next pet is Wither Skeleton. It gives you strength, crit damage, crit chance, intelligence, and defense as base stats. Its special ability makes you take less damage from skeletons and deal extra damage to wither mobs. This makes it specifically helpful in the floor 7 boss room, giving you both extra damage and some much needed survivability. Comparing this to the skeleton, Skeleton is better single hit damage, but Wither Skeleton is better for floor 7. Comparing this to the Wither Skeleton, Skeleton is better single hit damage, but Wither Skeleton is better for floor 7 boss room for surviving. The next pets are Blue Whale and Baby Yeti. Both of these pets are for survivability and do not give you any damage boost. The Baby Yeti gives you defense based on your strength, while the Blue Whale gives a good amount of health and defense because of the ability that gives you 1 defense for every 20 max health. But which one should you use? If your build is specifically strength heavy, you should use Baby Yeti. If it's not, use Blue Whale. I have done some testing. Some strength builds give you a bit less effective HP with the Baby Yeti. That's mostly because of the nerf that happened a while back. In the early and mid game state, you might notice Blue Whale being a little bit better. I would invest into a Baby Yeti as it's overall better in the future. The next pet is Blaze. This pet gives you intelligence and defense as base stats and has the ability to upgrade the Blaze armor stats up to 40% and double the effects of Hot Potato Books. Overall, this is the pet you need if you're going for frozen Blaze armor only. The final two pets are Ender Dragon and Golden Dragon. Both of these pets are crazy strong for damage, but they're also insanely expensive. In dungeons, the Golden Dragon actually has worse effective HP, intelligence, and speed compared to the Ender Dragon, but it does more damage. Ender Dragon is also cheaper than the Golden Dragon, because for Golden Dragon to be good, you would need 1 billion coins in your bank. In my opinion, just use Skeleton Pet until you can upgrade to the Golden Dragon, because the Skeleton DPS is the same as the Ender Dragon DPS, so there's just no need to go for the Ender Dragon really. It's just too expensive as well. Also, fun fact, Golden Dragon at level 200 is better than the E-Drag at 600 million bank. And those are all the pets. A quick summary. There are two pets that you should really consider, Skeleton and the Golden Dragon. Skeleton DPS is the same as the Ender Dragon DPS, so you won't need it. Once you can upgrade to the Golden Dragon, then you can go for it, but remember you would need 1 billion in your bank. Oh yeah, Blaze Pet if you're using the Frozen Blaze armor only. Hopefully that was helpful enough. If you have any more questions, feel free to ask in the comments below or join the Discord, there's a dedicated channel for it. Now that you have the pet, what pet item should you use? This will come down to preference. But you have Spooky Cupcake for additional 30 strength and 20 speed, Crochet Tiger Plushie for 35 attack speed, Antiques Remedy for 80% increase in pet strength, Minus Relic for increased pet stats by 33.3%, and finally, Dwarf Tailtil Shelmet for no knockback. Each pet has its own use case, but a few of them stand out more for Archer. Tiger Plushie is amazing because attack speed directly boosts how fast you shoot arrows, making it one of the best DPS choices. Spooky Cupcake gives a nice mix of strength and speed if you need a balanced boost. Antiques Remedy is more of a budget option for extra strength, while the Minus Relic is an expensive pick and usually only goes on the dragon pets. Finally, the Dwarf Tailtil Shelmet is useful for the knockback immunity, but with the new Shellwise attribute that came with the Forging update, once you have it maxed, you might not actually need the Dwarf Tailtil Shelmet. This attribute is very important as the knockback is very annoying in dungeons, so make sure to go for it. Overall, use Tiger Plushie for everything except the Golden Dragon, and for the dragon you use Antiques Remedies. The next category is equipment. There are 5 different types of equipment: belts, bracelets, cloaks, gloves, and necklaces. However, there are only 4 equipment slots that you can use. The best equipment for Archer is the Fragged Bone Necklace, Fragged Shadow Assassin Cloak, Fragged Adaptive Belt, and Soul Weaver Gloves. All of these equipments were made for dungeons specifically and can be obtained in dungeons. If you plan to do a lot of dungeons, then this is definitely worth it and will be the only equipment you would need. Alternatively, you can also use the Heft Necklace if you don't meet the requirement for the Bone Necklace. It is very good if you have the Time Charms as well. If you don't have the requirement for the dungeon equipments, you can use any of the molten equipments temporarily until you get them. For the Reforges, this can be a bit confusing as you might notice a lot of different choices. On the belt, the best choice is to use the Bloodshot Reforge, and then waxed on everything else. You can also use the blended on the necklace and gloves if you have high enough MP that you reach 100 crit chance without waxed. The attack speed from the blended is very helpful. See what fits you best. For the ultimate enchant, you can use D1 on your necklace, and for the enchants, optionally, you can use the Prosperity, Quantum, and Cayenne for extra stats. And that's it for the equipment. Hopefully that was straightforward. Okay, let's talk about the weapons now. Picking the correct weapon is very crucial for your setup, as a bad weapon can slow down your clearing and even get you killed. But what weapon should I choose? Since you're playing Archer, it is most likely going to be a bow. But first, let me explain to you the 2 types of bows, the normal bow and the short bow. Normal bows shoot by pulling the bow fully and then firing, while with the short bow you just shoot instantly with a shot cooldown that could be reduced with higher attack speed. So with common sense, you would know that the short bow are better, as they do more damage per second. But in this game, there are 20 different bows. You could technically use most of them to get into dungeons, but I will only mention the ones that I believe will be helpful for your progression. Also, I want to remind you that Archer has one of the worst weapon progression, so I don't recommend playing Archer until you reach floor 4. Anyways, that being said, let's start with the first weapon, Artisanal Shortbow. This is the cheapest shortbow you can find, helpful for getting into dungeons with absolutely nothing. Because it's a shortbow, it can shoot fast while keeping a distance. Downside is, it cannot be dungeonized, so it shouldn't be used past entrance. The next weapon is Dragon Shortbow, which requires Catacomb 8. This is basically a better version of the Artisanal Shortbow, plus can be dungeonized, so it can do decent amount of damage early on. It is good up to floor 2, but nothing beyond that. Also, it does have a Catacombs 8 requirement, so in the early stage you might not have it yet. Therefore, another bow you can use is the Machine Gun Shortbow. This is a nice bow to get you into dungeons too. It only requires Catacombs 2 to use, and uses Undead Essence to dungeonize, which can also be cheap sometimes. The next bow is the Spirit Shortbow. This is your first real dungeon shortbow, which unlocks after completing floor 4. There is a noticeable gap between the early weapons like the Dragon Shortbow or Machine Gun Bow and this upgrade. So for floor 3, you'll have to rely on your existing bow to survive. The best approach is to rush floor 4 completion so you can make the upgrade as quickly as possible. Although it is a really decent bow, there is another bow that would outshine it quickly. And speaking of, the next bow is the Juju Shortbow, which requires Enderman Slayer 5 and Catacombs level 15. This is the most used weapon for players who are not really rich and want a decent bow. This can get you up to floor 7, but keep in mind that the bow shoots faster the more attack speed you have. The next bow is the Terminator. With this bow, I don't think I need to speak much. Everyone knows this is the best bow for dungeons and even outside dungeons. It shoots 3 arrows at the same time and shoots really fast because it's a short bow. Although it is very expensive, so you might take time to reach this one, but this is the end game bow and no other bow can replace it. The final weapon is the Astrea or the Scylla. You might be wondering, why am I mentioning this? This is an archer guide. Well, this weapon is actually very helpful also as a secondary, since with the bow you don't really get lifesteal, so healing can sometimes be annoying. Combined with the scrolls, when you right click you get an absorption shield, which can be helpful for surviving. Obviously this is a very expensive weapon, but it's a must-have if you plan to do late master mode content. Another alternative weapon for lifesteal is Flower Truth, Soul Whip, and Bouquet to Flies. All these weapons are also not bows, but they're actually very decent for doing damage to lifesteal. If you right click with the Flower of Truth for example, you also do damage, which can be helpful for clearing as well. And those are the weapons. There are of course a lot of weapons you can use. I only mentioned the ones that I think that will be helpful for you. If you have used something alternatively, put them in the comment section, let the others know. But what weapon reforges and ultimate enchants to use? For Juju Shortbow, you use Rapid, and for Terminator, you use Spiritual on all floors except floor 4 or M4. For those, you use Precise. For the Wither Blades, here it doesn't really matter for the reforge, because if you swap the weapon fast enough, it's just going to use the stats from the Terminator, so you can use Heroic. Now for the ultimate enchant, you use Soul Eater. You could also use Duplex, but it's not better than Soul Eater for clearing. One important reminder for the short bows is to put Overload enchant. It's very essential. Anyways, we've talked about the weapon, we've talked about the weapon reforges. Now let's talk about the arrows. In Skyblock, of course, there are a lot of arrow types that you could use. But for Archer, there are only few ones that you should really consider. My personal favorite is Bouncy Arrows. This one is really good for clearing because the arrows have a 50% chance to bounce to another target, up to 4 targets. Another one is Non-Sword Arrows. This one is for piercing mobs, usually used on floor 6 for the Terracotta phase. Final one is Armor Shred Arrows. This one ignores 5% of the target's defense, which makes it really good for bosses with defense. All of these are good for their own purpose. Personally, I recommend to just use the Bouncy Arrows as it's very helpful for clearing, which speeds up your runs by a lot. Since we're already talking about the arrows, I want to talk about the Archer's ultimate. The ultimate shoots 5 arrows per second, dealing 75% of your highest bow hits in the last minute. It means if you just dealt a lot of damage in the last minute, it will use 75% of that damage. This is good to know as some people use this as a strat to deal insane amount of damage in higher floors. The next thing we'll talk about is accessories, or should I say, Power Stones. Power Stones give you a bunch of different stats, but when you're building an Archer setup, The stats you're going to be focusing on are strength, crit damage, crit chance, and attack speed. Your goal is to try to increase your strength and crit damage as much as possible and as equal as possible, while at the same time, increasing your attack speed and crit chance as much as possible. Keep in mind that to get more stats from your power stones, you require more magical power, which means you will need to get more accessories. Also, you can get even more stats out of your accessories by putting enrichments on the legendary or mythic accessories. On those, the enrichment I would usually go for is attack speed, or if you want crit chance to help you max those. So what power stone and tuning? For Juju, you use Itchy. For endgame Terminator players, you use Fortuitous. For tuning, go for speed, since speed is very important in dungeons, but make sure to have 100 crit chance first. And finally, the last topic we'll be talking about, what are some of the best helpful items that you can use to help you do dungeons more efficiently. The first item is Ice Spray. This one is expensive, but it's really helpful for killing fast mobs like the Shadow Assassin because it has an ability where it freezes mobs for 5 seconds, giving you time to do as much damage as possible. Comboing this with the short bow, you can become unstoppable. The next item is Florid or Ornate Zombie Sword. The Florid Zombie Sword is the upgraded version of the Ornate Sword and has good healing ability where it heals you for 168 HP plus 5% of your total health. The third item is Plasma Flux, Overflux or Mana Flux. The Plasma Flux is the upgraded version of the Overflux and they all give you more strength and increase your regen. The fourth item is Gyro Kinetic Wand. This item has 2 abilities, but the important one is the left click ability which creates a rift at the target's location, 8 blocks in radius, and all mobs in the rift gets pulled to the center for 4 seconds. This is really helpful for clearing big areas and also sometimes a backup ice spray if you miss. The fifth item is Withercloak Sword. This weapon is mostly used for its ability where it spawns a veil around you, giving you immunity from all damage. This is probably the most underrated ability in the game. It's extremely helpful for blocking damage that you know is about to come. In addition, it gives you 250 defense when holding. The final 2 helpful items are the Bonzo Mask and Spirit Mask. These 2 are helpful for giving you a second life. What's amazing about these 2 is that you can combo both of them and almost never die. What you do is you start off with using the Spirit Mask, and then once that procs, you use the Bonzo Mask. And then once the 30-second cooldown is over, you go back to the Spirit Mask. But here's the thing, it's not better than any of the other helmets you would be using. This is just for surviving, so in situations where you usually struggle to survive, this could be helpful for you. And that's everything. There were a lot of things that I've talked about in this video, and there are a lot of different builds you could do. You don't need to use exactly what I've shown. You can build your own setup from this guide, see what fits you best. If you have any questions, feel free to join my Discord. There's a dedicated channel for it where you could ask more questions, where a lot of people will be able to help you out. This video took way too long to make, so I would appreciate it if you hit that like button and subscribe while you're at it, helping reach 60,000 subs. Okay, bye.